I was not a fan of this ending, but this one's gonna end up being a DNF for me. Like, I am not having a good time with this so far. Really interesting. I feel like it's been going really well. Hey, how's it going? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be starting on another thriller reading vlog, and this vlog is going to specifically be to read some thriller arcs that have been sitting on my shelves that I am just so excited to get to. One of the thrillers that I'm going to be getting to in this video is The Astrology House by Karen Jade, and this is a thriller that actually comes out very soon. It publishes on July 16th, and this is one that I'm so intrigued by because I'm pretty big into astrology myself. You know, I'm a Capricorn, and I feel like I really relate and connect to almost every single Capricorn trait. Like, it's actually ridiculous. And so this is a book that I'm really intrigued by because apparently we're following a bunch of these different rich couples who are going to be going to this place called the Astrology House, where it's kind of like an astrological retreat. And then of course somebody gets murdered, and that's all we really know. It sounds like it's going to be so interesting. Like, I love the idea of this. I love the idea of like bringing astrology into thriller books. Like, why not? Another book that I plan to read for this video is this one called I Need You to Read This by Jess Maxwell. This one is actually the same author as The Golden Spoon, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, but this one actually intrigues me a little bit more for my personal taste. This one is going to be publishing on August 13th, so it's going to be coming out next month. And this one, all I really know about it is that we're following this character named Alex Marks, who is living in New York City, and then she gets this potential job opportunity where she's going to be working for this column. It's kind of like an advice column, but the woman who ran the advice column before her died under like suspicious circumstances. And that's all I really know about this one. It sounds like it's going to be really interesting, so I can't wait to read it for this vlog. And then I'm also going to be reading The Chamber by Will Dean, and this is the latest from Will Dean. He's actually the author of the last one, which is a thriller I read last year that I was a pretty big fan of. I actually really liked the last one. I had a fun time with it. And this one just sounds like it's going to be really interesting as well. This one also publishes August 6th, so this one's also going to be coming out next month. But this one on the back here, it just says, "And Then There Were None meets The Last Breath in this tense and suspenseful locked room thriller that takes place inside a hyperbaric chamber." That sounds like it's going to be very claustrophobic and very interesting to read. I will have you know though that I actually ended up DNFing one of these books almost right away. And so because I ended up DNFing one of these books, I also do read The Nature of Disappearing in this vlog. And The Nature of Disappearing, I technically don't have a thriller arc copy of this, but this one just published in the month of June, and this is a mystery thriller that I've been really looking forward to because it's from the same author as These Silent Woods, which was one of my favorite like mystery thriller books from a few years ago. I actually had that one as a booktube pick back when it came out, and I really ended up enjoying that one, so I've been really looking forward to The Nature of Disappearing. All I really know about The Nature of Disappearing is that it's about this girl who has like a van life influencer type of account, and she ends up going missing. And so just that alone really intrigues me with this one because that is like my guilty pleasure. Oh my god, I love watching the van life videos on YouTube. And so those are the 4-ish books that I'm going to be reading for today's reading vlog. Before we do jump into the vlog though, I just wanted to take a second to thank today's video sponsor, which is Aura, because I don't know about you, but I find it so annoying to get spam phone calls and spam texts all the time. I feel like I've been getting them so often lately in emails and in text messages. You know the ones I'm talking about, the ones that are like, "Oh, we just received your package, but we need to confirm your address." Like, that is a scam. And I know one of the reasons why we get so many spam phone calls and spam texts is because these big companies don't know how to keep our data safe. I don't know if you heard about this recently, but Ticketmaster was hacked and the data of 560 million users were put up for sale on the dark web. And I would actually know about this firsthand because I received a letter in the mail from Ticketmaster about this, and I was like, what the heck? The data stolen includes full names, addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, and credit card data. You know, at best, this is going to lead to even more spam, and at worst, this is potentially going to lead to fraud. And so what is Ticketmaster doing about it? Nothing. And in fact, they said that they didn't think that the hack would have a material impact on their overall business. It's just wild to me how all of these businesses will happily collect our data, but then they're doing nothing to protect it. And that's why I think Aura is so useful, because Aura will not only alert me when my data has been part of a data breach or if my information is getting leaked on the dark web, but it also gives me quick fraud alerts as well if anybody tries to access my credit cards. And it removes my information from data broker websites so that I get less spam. But I also get things like transaction monitoring, you get a VPN, an antivirus, a password manager, parental controls, and identity theft insurance. You get this all in one app at an affordable price. And I know that even though my information could have been compromised during that Ticketmaster data breach, I wouldn't have to worry because Aura is always on and doing the hard work of keeping me safe. I know that I'm not leaving myself or my family members vulnerable to data breaches. And if you don't want to either, then you can go to aura.com/gabbyreads and try your first 2 weeks for free, and you can use the link in my description description. So thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring today's video. And now let's get into the reading vlog. Hello, I am here with the first update because I have started reading I Need You to Read This, and I just hit page 100. I actually jumped into this book not knowing a single thing about it, but I am actually really liking the vibes of this one so far. I feel like this book so far is a little bit more like up my alley with what I tend to like in thriller books, at least compared to the last book that this author published, which was The Golden Spoon. I just wasn't the biggest fan of The Golden Spoon, but this story has been pretty interesting so far. We're following this protagonist named Alex, and she is working in New York City. So the New York Herald, the newspaper, they have this column that they regularly post called Dear Constance. And there was this woman named Frances who used to run the column. And Alex was actually like a really big reader of this column. Like she was a huge fan of it. And then 8 months ago, the woman Frances died and she was like brutally murdered and they never caught her killer. And Alex was like really upset by this because like she really loved the column Dear Constance. And so now 8 months later, she sees an advertisement that they are hiring for this job. And they said even though they know that they can never replace Frances, they want the column to continue on and they still want Dear Constance to be a thing. And so then Alex kind of just impulsively applies for the job. And then after beating out 500 other applicants, she actually gets the job, which she was like never expecting to actually get the job. And at first she's kind of hesitant because she's like, oh my god, maybe because of my past, like I need to be in hiding, like maybe I shouldn't accept this position. And I'm like, what the heck, like what's that about? Like girl, if you're supposed to be in hiding, then I don't think this is a job that you should be taking. But at this point we still don't know too much about this character's past, like what's been going on with Alex. But very quickly after she gets this job working at the Herald, it seems like there's like some weird things going on at this newspaper, especially in the office. It just seems like everybody's a little bit like overworked there and like there's something going on that she can't quite figure out. And then one of the characters, Howard, he's one of like the guys who were like really high up working at this newspaper and he's the one who hired her. He also seems like he's hiding something or like he has more going on than he's letting on. And so right now I feel like the biggest mystery of this book is trying to figure out not only what actually happened to Frances, like the woman that was murdered, because it's starting to seem like she might have actually been murdered because of something related to this job at the newspaper. But then there's also like the mystery of like trying to figure out what exactly is happening at this newspaper. I think it's also kind of interesting because in between the chapters of Frances working at the newspaper, we do get little snippets of the column, the Dear Constance column, and we get to see some of the letters that people are writing in. But we've seen a lot of the letters from this person called The Lost Girl. I mean, I do have my own prediction for what these Dear Constance chapters could be about. Like, I think I can see what's happening here, but I also hope that I'm wrong. But yeah, so far this book has been going well. I feel like this book is really easy to fly through. Like, it's really easy to read. It's only about 286 pages, so it's not too long either. I'm already really liking the atmosphere of like her working in this newsroom, and I love like the descriptions of like New York City and the way that you can feel so like anonymous in New York City but still like connected with other people at the same time. I don't really have anything too crazy going on tonight. I think I actually might just make some dinner with my sister. I'm now up to page 183 and I only have about 100 pages left and I'm still enjoying this for the most part. I feel like the best thing for me right now is that this book is reading like so freaking quick. Like the chapters are just flying and I really do like the way that it has like the letters, like the Dear Constance letters in between. I feel like it's still leading up to this man Howard being kind of like sketchy and like he's definitely up to something. I just kind of hope that it's not as predictable as I'm thinking it's gonna be, because that's like my biggest issue right now is I feel like it might be pretty predictable, because I feel like with where the story could be going right now, I can see it going in a very predictable direction. And so we'll see if that ends up being the case, but I'm still having a good time with this. Like at the rate that this is going, I could see myself giving this like 4 stars. I mean, maybe like 3 stars if the ending just like really drops the ball here. Last night while I was reading it, I tabbed this one part because I thought it was funny. And she's like, I'm gonna go see if the piano man takes requests. Like not the main character, but like one of our side characters. And then when she comes back, she's like, well, that was a bummer. Can you believe it? He was offended, said he doesn't do Taylor Swift. I thought that was great and I loved it. And I hope they keep it in the final final version because it's so funny. Anyways, oh my gosh, I need to curl my hair. I need to do something with this because this is outrageous. So hopefully I'll get the chance to finish this sometime today. I think right now I'm just gonna be curling my hair. I might need to film a video or possibly 2 videos today. I don't know. I have a lot that I need to get done. And then I am going to my parents' house to have dinner with my mom later tonight. So hopefully sometime between now and dinner tonight, I can finish up these last 100 pages. How's it going? It's much later in the night now. It's after 10 o'clock. I had a super busy and productive day. I actually ended up filming 2 different videos today. I edited one of them. I was also like doing my laundry. I went over to my mom's house and we had dinner. I made my mom dinner because my dad's in California right now. And so I wanted to like make her a nice dinner, and it was really nice to be able to like catch up with her for a bit. And after I just got home, I just finished reading I Need You to Read This. And I am really struggling with this book right now because I was not a fan of this ending. Just because I thought this book was so predictable. Like, what the fuck? I actually wrote down in my notes app, you know, I wrote down my different predictions for this book and I was right about every single one of them. There were like 4 different reveals in this book, I would say. Like, there's 4 different kind of like plot twists or reveals towards like the last 50 pages of this book, and I was right about all 4 of them. For this one reveal, I was right about it, but there was like a little bit more to it that I didn't anticipate. But the thing is that plot twist, it felt so ridiculous. I was just like, wait, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, that is so stupid. And I feel like there's a character towards the end of this book that like, they're so set in their ways for a second and then they just like change their mind at the last second and do something ridiculous right at the very end of the book. Like, it just felt so random. I was like, what is going on at the end of this book? Like, I don't know. I did not like the way that this one ended because it was so predictable. Like, I saw every single thing coming. And that's where I'm really struggling with like how I want to rate this book because, you know, as I mentioned earlier, I had a lot of fun with this. I thought the writing was really engaging. It was a quick read, you know, like this is one of those thrillers that is just so readable. I really liked trying to figure out what was going on while I was reading it, but I didn't think it was going to be like that predictable. And to be honest, it does kind of take away some of my enjoyment of the book because I wanted to be surprised about something at the end. I did really like, you know, the atmosphere of like her working in a newsroom and like weird stuff happening in the newsroom and trying to figure out like what was really happening to this woman, Frances. Like, it had really good atmosphere and really good vibes. But I also feel like this main character, she was a little bit annoying at times because she was so naive about things, or she would like make these assumptions and I'm like, why aren't you thinking about it this way? Like, it seemed so obvious to me what was going on that I was like, why are you so blind to like what's actually going on? And I couldn't tell if maybe like I was just finding this book to be really predictable or if like other people would read this and also find this to be very predictable. But like, I'm not even the best at like predicting stuff when it comes to thrillers, and I predicted every single freaking thing. Like, damn, maybe I should be the one out here writing thrillers and publishing thrillers if this is what's getting published. I don't know. I just feel very let down by that ending, and so I feel like now I kind of want to give this somewhere between like 2 or 2.5 stars, which is a bummer because earlier today I was thinking to myself like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be like a 4-star read. Like, I can recommend this book. Like, I'm having a good time. And so I don't know. I guess my question to you is that when you're reading a thriller and you're having a really fun time with it, but then the ending like really lets you down and you predict most of the plot twists, does that like affect your rating of the book, or do you tend to rate books lower if you were like not surprised by the ending at all? Because I think for me it's very like hit or miss. I feel like sometimes there are some thrillers that I can read and be like, yeah, you know, I kind of saw some things coming, but I can still rate it high. It just really depends. But with this one, a lot of the plot twists to me and a lot of the reveals were so obvious throughout the whole book that like I just really was hoping that ending was going to surprise me, and when it didn't, I just felt mad. You know, like I just kind of felt like upset at the ending because I was like, I wanted so much more from this. So I think that's why my gut reaction is that I want to rate this lower, because I'm frustrated that the ending did not deliver. Like, I'm curious if that's the same way for you. Like, how do you feel about thrillers with like disappointing endings? Do you think that that like ruins a lot of the book for you, or do you still rate it pretty high even if you didn't like the very end? I feel like, you know, when it comes to reading like mystery thriller books, it's like, yeah, they're all fine and fun and dandy, but I feel like there's so much writing on the end of it, you know? Anytime you go into a mystery or thriller, you're expecting that book to like surprise you in some way, right? Like, that's the expectation with going into a book like this. I don't know, maybe I'm being too harsh, but like also I just wanted to be surprised. Is that too much to ask? So yeah, anyways, this is probably like around a 2, maybe a 2.5 stars. So hopefully the next one will be a better time for me. Good morning. I wanted to update you because last night I started reading The Chamber by Will Dean. Last night, you know, me and my sister, we just got the random urge that we wanted to go to Chipotle, so we just went to Chipotle. Even though, you know, it is a little bit of a drive for us, but it's always worth it. Like, Chipotle is just so freaking good. And then after that, we tried to start watching The Bear because the new season of The Bear just went up. But we watched the first 2 episodes and we thought it was like kind of boring. Like, I don't know, season 3 so far has been a little bit slow. So instead, we ended up watching the first 2 episodes of The Mole, because The Mole is like a show on Netflix. They just uploaded season 2 of The Mole, and I'm so excited because it's one of like my favorite game reality type of shows. I think it's so much fun. It's so entertaining. But anyways, last night I got 67 pages into The Chamber, and I'm so sorry to let you know this, but I think that this one's gonna end up being a DNF for me. Like, I am not having a good time with this so far. And you know, I'm really bummed about this because the last book that I read from this author that was called The Last One, I think I read that one last summer, and it was so entertaining. Like, it was such an interesting thriller. And so I just assumed that I was going to feel the same way about this one, but this one feels like it's written in a completely different writing style that I just don't really click with. And in this story, we're following like several different characters who are getting put into this like chamber that's gonna be getting like sent underwater. The beginning of this, oh my gosh, there's just so much info dumping. For the first like 50-ish pages of this book, nothing really happens, and it's just so much info dumping about like, this is how we do this, and this is how we do this, and this is what the ship looks like, and this is what we're doing over here, and this is what it's like to dive, and this is what our daily routine looks like, and this is who this guy is. And you're just getting introduced to like all the characters. They all have nicknames, so it's kind of like hard to keep track of all of them already. But like, I am just not connecting with the writing style at all. Like, there's nothing interesting to like keep me reading the story right now. I even just made it to the part where like something suspenseful, you know, kind of happened, because it does mention this in the blurb, but it says one of the people is found dead in their bunk, and then they still have 4 days of decompression to go before the locked hatch to the chamber can safely be opened. So basically, like, they're getting trapped underwater in this little chamber, and they know that somebody in there is a killer because one of them has died. So like, only 60 pages in, I finally just reached the point where like something actually happened in the plot. But even still, like, I do not care, dude. I don't care about any of these characters. I don't care about the writing style, and I don't care about reading about this chamber any longer. Like, it is just so slow. It is so boring. Like, this is crazy. I'm just really upset about it because I thought that this one could be a really enjoyable time because of how much I loved this author's last book. But there's something so like clinical and like boring about this particular writing style that it is just not gripping me. This could be one, you know, where maybe I'll come back to this in August when this book actually publishes, and maybe I'll just try to listen to it on audio instead, because the idea of reading this physically right now is making me like not want to read, and like, I don't want to get into a reading slump just because I'm trying to read this. So I don't know, I feel like this might not be a forever DNF. I might come back to this at some point after the book is published and kind of see what other people are saying about it, but so far it is so freaking boring and I just don't want to read it anymore. So I think instead of trying to like push myself to read something that I don't want to read, I think instead I might actually try listening to the audiobook for The Nature of Disappearing, because I know that technically this one is not an arc anymore because this one actually did come out in the month of June, but this is another like new release thriller that I'm really intrigued by. This is the author Kimmy Cunningham Grant, and she's actually the same author as The Silent Woods, which was one of my favorite thrillers that I read a few years ago. I actually had her as a booktube pick for that book, The Silent Woods, and I really ended up liking that one quite a bit, so I'm really curious to read The Nature of Disappearing. I think this morning I would love to be able to go grocery shopping because I am getting so low on so many things that we need, so I think I'm gonna go grocery shopping. I might pick up like a breakfast sandwich from one of my favorite coffee spots, and then who knows, maybe I'll even take a walk. I mean, it looks pretty nice out today. It looks like it could get a little bit warm, but right now it looks really nice out, so maybe I'll also take a walk while listening to this on audio. Update you because it's almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm exactly 50% of the way through the audiobook for The Nature of Disappearing. I was able to take my little walk outside. I mean, it's getting a little bit hot out, like not gonna lie, I was kind of dying by the end of that walk. I was like, I think it's getting too much summertime, like too hot to enjoy the walks in the afternoon. But so far this audiobook is going okay. I don't know, for me, I feel like this audiobook has just been a little bit slow paced so far. Like the premise and the idea of it is really interesting and that's what's keeping me reading, but like the pacing of the story I'm finding to be really slow because I feel like a lot of this story has been bogged down by a lot of flashback chapters, and I don't know if these flashback chapters are like really necessary. Basically, we're following these characters who are living in Idaho, which is really cool. Like, I don't know if I've ever read a book that takes place in Idaho. I was talking with my friend Katie Colson about this, about how I'm so inspired because Katie's doing like a series right now where she's doing like reading around the world. Anytime she like reads a book that takes place in a new location, she like looks up the location and does like a deep dive on it. And I was saying how like I really want to get a little map where I can like fill in, like color in the different places that I've read on a map. So like Idaho would be a cool one to check off. But anyways, we're following these different characters and all of these characters have such unique names. Like for example, our protagonist, her name is Emmeline, like Emily, but Emmeline, which I've never heard before. And then like there's another guy that she works with and his name is Varden, which is also kind of a cool name. And then there's this older lady that they work with and her name is Rev, which is also kind of unique and cool. And then her old best friend, her name is Janessa. It's like Vanessa, but with a J, Janessa. I've also never heard that before. So like there's a lot of really unique names here in this book. But Emmeline, our protagonist, she's about 28 years old and she is a wilderness guide who is living in Idaho, and she works with this guy Varden, and Varden is like a forest service ranger. And so basically what's happening is that there's this girl, Janessa, who like used to be her best friend, but they had a falling out recently and they don't talk to each other anymore. But recently Janessa, she has kind of become like one of those like van life social media influencer people, which I think is pretty cool. Like I'm such a sucker for watching the van life videos. Those are some of my favorite videos to watch on YouTube, like low key. I kind of wish I would do that myself. Like if I didn't have so much anxiety, I would love to do that. Just like go out on the road and like live in a van. I think that would be so fun. So anyways, her friend Janessa has recently become like a van life girl influencer person. And then there's also this guy Tyler who like he used to be her boyfriend, I think, or like they used to be romantically involved. But then it said like he left her on the side of the road like 3 years ago or something like that. Like they also had a huge falling out and like something happened between them, but you don't know exactly what happened between them. You just know that there's history there. And now it seems like this guy Tyler is trying to come back into her life so that they can both help, you know, look for Janessa together. Because I think this guy Tyler might have been involved with like Janessa more recently too. But so in this story, we not only get like the present day chapters of both like Emmeline and then like Tyler reconnecting and then trying to figure out where Janessa went and like what happened to her, but you also get flashback chapters that are like 7 years ago to when she like first met Janessa and like seeing the early beginnings of their friendship. And then it even has you flashing back like 17 years ago to this protagonist and like her childhood and like different things that have happened with her throughout time, which I don't know if we need all of those flashbacks. Yeah, I guess it's like slightly interesting to get the flashbacks of like her and Janessa and kind of like see how their friendship began, but like I just don't know if I need like that much detail, you know, like I don't know if I care enough about this friendship to get all this backstory. And so I feel feel like for me right now, this book is suffering with the pacing quite a bit because it feels so slow paced because 50% in, nothing has really happened and it's just so bogged down by these flashbacks. But you know, this is where the audiobooks like really come in the clutch for me, because if I was reading this physically right now, I would probably definitely DNF it here. But because I have the audiobook, I don't mind just like listening to this while I'm getting other things done, you know? I think that's like the biggest thing about audiobooks for me, is that I thrive when I'm being productive and I can like get multiple things done at the same time. And I think that's why it's so hard for me to just like physically read sometimes, because when you're physically reading, all of your energy and all of your attention only can be on the book. But then obviously when you're like listening to an audiobook, you can multitask, you know, like you can drive, you can clean, you can get things done. And so I love having the audiobook as an option. And so because I do have this on audio, I'm just gonna continue listening to it and I'll let you know my thoughts once I finish it. Rachel picked us up some burgers. This is freaking huge. Oh my god. It has 2 patties. And then also some waffle fries. Oh my god. Waffle fries are elite. Hello. I needed to update you because I have finished listening to The Nature of Disappearing. I ended up listening to like the last 50-ish% of this audiobook last night before I went to bed. And I am so sad to update this vlog with some more unfortunate news because I really did not like this one. I think I'm probably gonna end up giving this like 2 stars. Like, it was just so boring. It really sucks, you know, because I do really like this author's writing style, because I was a huge fan of These Silent Woods. And this book really worked for me, not only because the writing style was so beautiful, but because this book was so atmospheric. It really felt like I was like out in the wilderness with these characters. But then also a huge part of the reason why I ended up loving this one so much is because of the characters. Like, I really loved the father-daughter relationship in this book, and I feel like I know that this author is capable of writing some really great characters that I can connect with. But for some reason, in The Nature of Disappearing, not only did I really not connect with any of these characters, but I found them to be kind of obnoxious. Like, I don't know, I found like most of this story to just kind of feel like this like messy love triangle between these 3 friends. And yeah, the girl Janessa goes missing, and so like the only mysterious element really in this book is like the disappearance of this girl Janessa and trying to figure out like what happened to her friend. But I feel like the majority of this story is about this main protagonist, Emmeline, and her with this guy, Tyler, trying to like talk about their past and figuring out their past, and you get to learn about their past and what happened with them. Like, the amount of times that these characters talk about that night when he like left her a couple years ago, like he left her on the side of the road, the amount of times that they bring up this conversation, it is just so repetitive. It's just like over and over and over again. And like, not only did I not care about Emmeline, I didn't care about Tyler, and I certainly didn't care about Janessa. It got to the point where I was like, I don't even care about the mystery in this book. Like, I don't even care about what happens to Janessa at this point. And you know, some people could say the same about These Silent Woods, about how like there wasn't a lot of like mystery and suspense in this book either. But I think that the reason why this one ended up working for me so much is because I got so attached to the characters in this. And I think that's where The Nature of Disappearing really failed for me, because I did not give a single fuck about any of these people. The Nature of Disappearing was written in a way where it read more just like drama between friends. Like, there was a lot of romantic elements in this book that I did not care for, because in These Silent Woods, you know, it was mostly like a father-daughter relationship. I do remember there was like a little bit of romance in this book, but it was not a huge part of the plot, whereas I feel like in The Nature of Disappearing, it was a majority of the plot. Was like this romantic storyline was like a huge part of the story. I just get so frustrated when my thriller books have this much romance in it, especially when I'm not really anticipating that that's gonna be like the vibe of the book. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do think that this book did accomplish a few different things. Like, it does feel very atmospheric in the way that I was hoping it would. I do love the Idaho, you know, atmosphere. It does feel like you're out on a hike with them, or like out in the wilderness with these characters. I think this author definitely accomplished the atmosphere that she was looking for. But unfortunately, with a book like this, you know, like, I need more than just the atmosphere to get invested in a story like this. I did see a lot of reviewers on Goodreads say that this book kind of closely resembled that true crime case with Gabby Petito, because I know Gabby Petito, she was another like van life influencer girl who kind of went missing, and I guess had a similar story to like what was happening in this. And I'm not as familiar with like the Gabby Petito case, so like I can't really speak on that, but I guess that is something to keep in mind. Like, is this book inspired by like a real true crime story? I'm not totally sure. I can't say for sure, like I don't really know, but that's definitely something interesting to keep in mind when reading this book, I guess. The most annoying part about this book for me though is that everything was like fine. It was giving me 3-star energy throughout most of my reading experience. And you know, as I mentioned, if I didn't have the audiobook, I would have DNF'd this so freaking quick. But because I had the audiobook, I was like, well, I'll just push through and listen to the second half. In the second half, I really was not a big fan of the way that this book ended and some of the tropes that were coming in at the end of the story. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so annoying. I just really don't like when thriller books end in this way. I just found it to be so anticlimactic, and so my rating actually dropped from like a 3-star to 2-star because I was getting so annoyed in the second half of this book, and it just really started to feel really repetitive, and I'm so upset that I didn't end up loving this one. I really thought that this could be a new favorite just because of how much I loved the previous book from this author. So now, like, I'm not too sure. I think I still will try her books in the future, but I'm gonna go in with much lower expectations if I do read from her again in the future. And so now we have the final book that I'm planning to read for this video. It's The Astrology House, and I'm so scared and so nervous because if I don't end up loving this book, then I feel like this vlog is gonna be a complete flop. I want to have found at least one favorite, you know, like that's always the goal with doing these reading vlogs. I never want to have a reading vlog where I just come on here and like hate every single thing that I read. Like that's no fun for anybody. So hopefully this one does end up being the winner of the video. You know what's so perfect timing too is that Libro just sent out their ALCs for the month of July. I'm actually recording this on July 1st. I'm filming like weeks ahead of my schedule right now. They just sent out the July ALCs, and this book is actually an ALC this month, which means that I get early access to the audiobook, which is so freaking cool of Libro. Like the timing could not be more perfect because audiobooks help me so much these days, and it helps me like be productive and do multiple things while reading the book. I'm actually gonna start listening to this on audio while I'm at the gym this afternoon, which is another reason I love audiobooks, you know, because I love being able to go to the gym and like feeling productive while listening to an audiobook. That's amazing. So thank you so much to Libro for this ALC and coming through. Back home from the gym. I ended up picking up some really good Asian food on the way home. It's one of my favorite things to order now. It's basically this like ribeye yaki that has like not only beef in like this amazing garlic sauce with white rice, but it also has like asparagus and onions and mushrooms in it. Oh my god, it was so good. But I wanted to update you because I have started on the Astrology House, and I now just hit 108 pages in. I just got to the point where it's the second day. This is split into like a few different parts, I think, in this book. And so far, this has been really interesting. I feel like it's been going really well. This book has been really interesting so far because we're following all these characters who are going to this place called the Stars Harbor Astrological Retreat. And it's really cool because there's a lot of talk about astrology in this book already. Something that I love about this is that we'll get all these different charts for like every single character in this book. So we'll get a little chart of like what's their sun sign, their moon sign, their rising, their age, like different things like that. And I started dog-earing the pages anytime we would get it because I find it so convenient to be able to like flip back through the book and find all of their charts right away. And I love that it's 8 different characters. I think we're following 4 different couples that are all gonna be at this astrology house. And then we also do get the perspective of this girl named Rini, and she's gonna be like the host. She's like the astrologist that's gonna be like guiding them throughout this retreat. My one nitpick thing so far, I guess, is that there's no Capricorns. Like, what a freaking bummer. Oh my gosh. Out of all of the like 8 characters, there's 8 different astrological signs represented in this book, and Capricorn is not one of them. So I'm like, how dare you? There's a Pisces, there's an Aquarius, there's a Cancer, Scorpio, Virgo, a Taurus, a Leo, and an Aries. but the rest of us are not represented. So like, how unfortunate for myself. I really wanted to see a Capricorn in this book. But anyways, we have a lot of different interesting characters and like things going on in this book. Main character of the story, or at least the first person that we're introduced to, is this woman named Margot. She's a Pisces and she has her husband Ted there, and he's an Aquarius. And then we also do have these two characters named Amy and Farah, and both of them are best friends, and they both have their husbands there at the retreat as well. And Amy and Farah also kind of feel like they're like the main protagonists of the story, or at least they're the ones that I'm the most invested in, I guess, out of all of these characters. Really do love the way that this one is written so far. It feels like the pacing is done very well. And I love that we're jumping around with like different point of views. Like we're getting several different point of views in this. The audiobook is actually really good because we are getting multiple narrators. Like it's like a full cast audiobook. And so I'm having a great time listening to this one on audio. I feel like the story's just flying by so far. I love that the story started with a flash forward, and it kind of talks about how like, oh my gosh, the house is a wreck and like only 6 of them remain. And then the first like little chapter ends with the moment that drove one of them to murder. And so like, you know that something's going down, okay? And then it flashes to 2 days earlier, Friday, arrival day. So they're only there for a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday, it sounds like. And on Sunday, shit really hit the fan. So at this point in time, I've only read what happened on Friday night, like the first night that they got there. And then now I'm getting on to day 2, which is Saturday. I don't know, I'm really liking the setup so far. There was something introduced that's like between these two characters in this book that I was like, ooh, like I'm invested, like tell me more. So I'm already kind of like invested in some of like the drama that's happening between some of these characters. Like I'm just finding it to be really interesting. I also thought it was really interesting just like talking about astrology in general. There was this one conversation these characters had that I thought was so interesting, because they were talking about like, when you have a C-section, does that affect your like fate? You know, like does that affect your destiny? Because like, you know, the time of day that you're born really affects your like astrological chart, right? Like that plays a part in like figuring out either your moon or your rising sign or whatever it is. She was having a conversation with the astrologist being like, so when a mother gets a C-section and she like interferes with what would have been the time of birth, that's like the destiny, she's like, does that affect things? Like, does that interfere with your destiny? And maybe that's why some people don't really connect as much with like their moon sign or their rising sign, because if their mom had a C-section and they were supposed to be born at a different time, then maybe that could affect that. I don't know. I thought that was a really interesting conversation. Like, I don't know if I believe in any of it, but I just thought it was really fascinating. Like, I've never really thought about that before. And so I am loving the discussions about astrology in this. I'm not the most knowledgeable about these things when it comes to astrology. Like, I don't know all of the things. Like, I know there's some people out there that really know a ton about astrology, and I'm not one of those people, but I do know a bit. Like, I know the basics. And if you were wondering, I am a Capricorn sun. And like, I relate so hard to being a Capricorn sun. Like every single Capricorn trait, I'm like, that is me to the T. I'm a Leo moon, and then I'm a Cancer rising. So I think that that's why I'm such an emotional person, is because I have that Cancer rising that just really throws everything off. But I think that's why I'm a little bit more emotional than the typical Capricorn, you know? But anyway, I just wanted to update because I'm having a really fun time with this. I'm actually liking this so much so far. It's kind of giving me vibes of like the writing retreat. It just reminds me of that a little bit right now, and I can't figure out if it's because it's like all of these people are at a retreat and there's somebody kind of like leading the retreat, and it kind of just gives me a similar feeling to what I had when I was reading the writing retreat. So like, that makes me incredibly excited because the writing retreat was a 5-star like all-time favorite of mine when I read it. So I'm not gonna hold my breath, but I'm just really excited that this is going well so far. I think for the rest of the night, I'm probably just gonna watch my K-drama because it's almost 7 o'clock at night. Rachel and Obed are out at the movies right now, so I kind of have the place to myself. So I kind of want to take advantage of having the place to myself, and on the big TV, I want to watch one of my K-dramas. And tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to be hosting some reading sprints on Patreon tomorrow anyways, so I figured maybe I'll just save the rest of this to read tomorrow afternoon, even though it's going to kind of be hard to wait because I'm loving it so much. Right now, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with the K-drama Crash Landing on You. It's currently like my entire personality. It's actually wild because I just started watching this show very recently when I got sick, like in the middle of June, and I've been flying through it ever since. I only have like 4 episodes left at this point. I'm probably gonna finish it so freaking soon, and I just love it. I love it so much. It has my whole heart. I don't know why it took me this long, honestly, to watch Crash Landing on You, because I know that everybody who loves K-dramas always talks about Crash Landing on You. Like, they always say like that's the best one, and for some reason I just put it off for so long, and now I fully understand. Like, I fully get it. I'm obsessed. I think I've cried like every single episode, and like these two just like, ugh, it makes my heart hurt. It's like the most forbidden romance I've ever seen in my freaking life, but like in a good way. It's just the best. I think I'm gonna watch Crash Landing on You. I might make a cute little dessert. We're only like 10 minutes in and I'm already crying. Is the show fucking for real? Oh my god. Give me a break. You're so cute. Hello, I wanted to update you because I've still been reading The Astrology House. Last night I ended up making like a cute little treat before bed because I did watch Crash Landing on You and it did make me cry. And so then I was like, well, now I need dessert. And so I made these little like puff pastry Nutella strawberry things that I really like to make. And then this morning I just had my breakfast. I've been doing some Patreon reading sprints this afternoon. It's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but I wanted to update you because I just hit page 200 and I just got to, you know, part 3 of the book, which is like the final day. So I thought I would update you because I'm having a little bit of a change of heart with like the direction of where this book is going. I don't know, I just feel so torn on this right now because part of me is like really enjoying it and then part of me is getting kind of like bored with the drama. I feel like a lot of this book so far has just been like relationship drama and like complicated drama between these people, you know, because all 8 of the people who are going to this like astrological retreat, they all know each other, right? It's like one of them is like the brother of one girl and then like they work with each other and so like they're all connected and they're all related. It's just been a lot of like relationship drama between them, like people cheating on each other and like things happening within this group of 8 people. And I'm not super invested. Like there's only one timeline out of those different things that's going on that I'm really invested in. And then the rest of it, I'm kind of like, I mean, it's fine. Part of the reason why I'm finding this book to be a little bit slow is because we not only get like the story of like these 8 characters, but we also do follow the point of view of the main girl, Rini, you know, like the host. Like she's the one, like that's the astrology girl that's like running this whole thing. And we do get a lot of chapters from her point of view, and in her chapters we do get a lot of like flashbacks for like her life and like her childhood and like things that have happened to her. And to be honest, I just don't know if I care a whole lot about this girl Rini. Like she's definitely like my least favorite character. Like I just don't care about her story that much. I'm personally much more invested in like the 8 people that are staying at the retreat as opposed to like the woman who's running the retreat. And like Rini, by the way, she's like young, you know, she's like a fucking, I think she's like in her 20s and she just knows like a shit ton about astrology and that's why she's been like running this thing and putting it together. But I guess I just don't really care enough about her as a character. And so her parts and like her flashback chapters are just a little bit slow. Like they're starting to bore me. Oh my gosh, if you just saw during that last little part where I was reading something and I was shocked, like I looked up the camera like, oh, holy shit. But like I was so confused because I thought that something had happened in the plot, but then like a few chapters later I realized like, oh, it was just in the character's head. Like they didn't actually do that. They were just imagining themselves doing it, I guess. I don't know. I found the writing to be so confusing there because I guess she was like having a freaking hallucination of doing something terrible, but she didn't actually do it. So like I was like, wait, what? Like my head was so confused and I had to go back and reread that chapter to make sure that I read it right. And I guess I read it wrong, but I don't know. I thought it was a little bit confusing personally. I mean, I am reading the ARC copy right now, so maybe they will make some like final changes in the finished copy. I've actually noticed so many changes on the audiobook that have been changed. Like there's been full sentences that have been taken out from this book and there's like a lot of differences between this ARC copy and the audiobook. So I am glad that I'm listening to this one on audio because I feel like the audiobook is a little bit more well polished than this ARC copy that I have. But yeah, so far it's going well. I just don't know if this is giving me 5-star energy anymore at this point. Like I'm starting to get little things here and there that I'm annoyed by. But honestly, like it really just depends how this last third of this book ends up going. Like am I gonna be surprised? Is this book really gonna like pull out the rug from under me? Like I don't know. I'm really hoping that this book gets like weird at the end. I don't know. I hope it's not like the generic thriller where it's just like marital drama I really hope it like does something different, and I hope that it like ties in more the like astrology thing. There's a lot of talk about like, you know, compatibility with like your sign with other signs and different things like that, but I almost wish the astrology was playing an even bigger part in the book, if that makes sense. But I feel like some people might actually be annoyed by like how much the astrology has been mentioned in this book, because they have a lot of like group gatherings where they like discuss their signs and like different traits of their signs, and she does like readings for them. She does like readings with the couples of like how compatible they are, different things like that. So like there is a lot of astrology included in this, and I just want kind of like more of it. I don't know, I feel like there's even more astrology that could be included in this, and I'm curious to see how the astrology thing ends up tying into the ending of this book, if it is in any way. Hi, I'm here with the final update because I just finished reading The Astrology House, and once again I'm coming at you with some mixed feelings, because I do think there were some things about this ending that were interesting. Like there were some twisty things that I personally didn't really see coming. I just don't know how much I cared, you know, about like the plot twists that were happening. Like don't get me wrong, I do think there were some interesting things happening at the end of this book. Like it wasn't the worst ending. I was actually a little bit impressed with like some of the things that were happening, but then also like the very ending of this book just didn't feel very satisfying to me in the way that I was hoping it would. I feel like earlier in the book there was something happening where like we would get this random flashback for these certain characters, and I was kind of like thinking to myself, like, am I supposed to care about this? I don't know, like there were some things in this book that didn't really feel necessary to the overall story, or I found myself wondering like what was the point of like this character's particular flashback. Like I just didn't get anything out of it. And oh my god, I had to laugh. Like there was this one scene where this character like compared her life to the character of Monica on Friends, and like I'm sorry, but that scene was so freaking cheesy, because she's talking about how like, oh, like her life is so similar to like that of Monica, and like how her relationship with her brother is, and like different things like that with Ross. But then the chapter ends with her being like, are they being their real selves, or are they characters in the one where they push Margot over the edge? You know, because Friends does that thing where they do the episodes that start with the one where like this happens. But I was like, dude, it was so cheesy. Like I'm a Friends stan, so I feel like I'm somebody who could have appreciated that, but I just thought it was so funny. It was so like out of pocket, so random. Like I don't know, the writing in this was definitely a choice. I feel like in some ways I can tell that this is a debut book. I don't know, I do feel confident though giving this one 3 stars. Like there were some things that I found entertaining about this book. I really liked the layout of this story, how we would get like, you know, the astrological charts for all the characters. I thought that was really fun. I do feel like the astrology played a fun part in this story. I liked a lot of the conversations talking about like what is fate and what is free will, and like what things do we have control over in our lives and what things are just like destined to happen to us. I think that was a lot of really interesting conversation, and I would have wanted even more of that, to be honest. But I do think we got a good amount of astrological talk in this book. Like if you want to read this book because of the astrology aspects, I do think that you'll be satisfied. Like there is a lot of astrology talk in here, but I feel like where this book really dropped the ball for me is that it just becomes so much more about the relationship drama between these people instead of like feeling like a thriller. Sorry if you can hear the gardeners just came, but I don't know. 3 stars is not a bad rating. I'm just a little sad about it because this felt like it could have been a 5-star read at the beginning, and then it ended up being just okay for me in the end. But hey, at the very least, this is the most successful book that I had for this reading vlog. You know, like this is the only one that I would still recommend reading this book. I am upset though that for this reading vlog, I didn't find any 5-star new favorites, and I didn't even have any 4 stars. That's always really upsetting to me when I have a vlog that goes this poorly, but at least this one wasn't a complete and total flop. You know, we gotta celebrate the small wins when we can. So yeah, that's gonna be a wrap on this reading vlog. Do let me know if you have any plans to read any of these 3 books that I read during this video, or what are your thoughts on these books. And thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye!